Hello everyone, and I guess by the video you can tell that I am probably trying to get some video on my little scooter. And actually what I'm trying to do is get video, but more importantly I'm trying to get decent audio. And I've got that GoPro patched through a Sony microphone. So far mixed results. I've had it out 3 times and so far less than stellar results. But that is not the subject of this video. The subject of this video is the little cub. I consistently get questions about the cub, and they usually go something like this. Hey Dwayne, your cub, is that an experimental or is it a Reed Clipwing? If it's a Reed Clipwing, why is it in the experimental category? Could you please explain what's going on there? You wouldn't believe how many questions like that I get. And so today I'm going to set the record straight. I thought that I already had in previous videos, but apparently I haven't. So today I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about my little Cuberinsky. This cub started life up in Dayton, Ohio, or a little suburb not very far outside of Dayton. In the mind of Leroy Knight, who apparently was a Cub fan, he decided that he wanted to build a Clipwing Aero sport trainer. Not the sport trainer, the Aero trainer, the Clipwing version. Leroy also apparently liked the idea of a high-performance Super Cub type airplane, a larger engine, so forth and so on. He wanted to be able to solo from the front seat and put a radio in it and a nav, and a navcom up there and this, that, and the other thing. You know how people get when they've got their dreams going. As most of y'all know, the Aero Acro Trainer is a derivative of the Aero Sport Trainer. The Aero Sport Trainer is basically almost an exact duplicate, an exact replica, almost, of a 1946 1945-46 J3 Cub. Structurally, with a few exceptions, it's the same airplane, the same dimensions, and all of that. Now they did do a few things differently than they did at the Piper factory. The wings were built out of Sitka spruce. Now, you know the original J3 had spruce wing spars and aluminum ribs. And then later on, they went to the aluminum wing spar. Everybody thinks that the aluminum wing spar is, 100,000 times better than the wood, but I would argue with that notion with anybody that would like to argue that point. But we're not here to argue points. Now the wings were shortened from an original 35 feet, I think it was 35 feet, 3 inches, 2.5 inches, something like that, down to about 27.5 or 28 feet. Right off the top of my head, I can't give you the figure, but that's ballpark. That's right in there. And for the aerobatic version, of course, they added more wing ribs. Had to have more wing ribs to carry the load, otherwise under G load, people were breaking wing ribs left and right. Now, Leroy built this airplane mainly from Aero kits that you could buy. He even bought the engine. Aero was selling Lycoming engines for Lycoming to go into some of these kit airplanes. And so Leroy, you know, to expedite matters, he bought as many kits, as far as I can tell, that he possibly could. Of course, he bought the steel tube fuselage. You can still get a steel tube fuselage. Well, let's see. In 2015, the catalog quoted a finished welded price for a fuselage of, let's see, $9,299. And of course, that has gone ridiculously high. Well, I say ridiculously. It really is not that ridiculous, considering the substantial amount of man hours that goes into framing up and welding a fuselage. One of the most delightful aspects of shortening those wings is the ailerons are almost full span, and they really lighten up. Believe it or not, the ailerons are fairly light compared to a stock J3, and the roll rate is fantastic for a Cub. It's just a delight. Leroy bought the tail feathers already completed. Of course, he bought them. They didn't have the aerodynamic balances on them. It was just built to stock J3 dimensions. They did not use the jack screw. He used an H-tube on the leading edge there to rigidly attach the horizontal stabilizer to the fuselage. And I modified all of that. When I got the airplane, the trim tab was not working, and the loads on the elevator were tremendous. So I tore the horizontal stabilizer and elevators apart and modified it with the aerodynamic balances. I put in a heavier H-tube, beefed up the attachment in that area. Now, when I go to recover this thing, and eventually I will, I was hoping to get to do that this winter. Who knows? I've got too many things going on. But I would like to go back in there and put a jack screw back in there as per original J3. I've got the jack screw and all of that. I just need to put in the build the tower and hook it all up. He had an elevator trim tab that was half that size, and the boat and cable hookup that he had in it made it absolutely impossible to work. So I had to tear all of that apart. I built a new trim tab and hooked it all up, and boy, it works like a charm now. The front and back lift struts have been beefed up. As a matter of fact, the rear lift strut is the exact dimensions of the front lift strut. When I get around to rebuilding the airplane, I will put a round tubing inside the front strut and in effect making it an I-beam so that it will take negative maneuvers quite a bit better. And by quite a bit better, I mean I'm not trying to buckle under compressive loads. The standard J3 had a Continental A65 engine in it, which was absolutely adequate. except on an extremely hot day and you had two 215-pound pilots in the airplane. Otherwise, it was fine. But Leroy decided he wanted a bigger engine, so he installed the Lycoming 0235 C1B engine, and that is it's a low compression engine. It's 6-to-1, I think, compression ratio. I'd like to bump that up to about 8-to-1, but good Lord, the pistons for a 0235 C1B is out of this world. If anybody knows where I can get some 8-to-1 compression ratioed pistons for this engine at a reasonable price, and I'm not talking $500 per piston, I'm talking about reasonable, let me know, okay? So the engine, depending on who you talk to, you can go to the book. That's what I usually do. And anywhere from 108 to 115 horsepower, depending on the RPM that you turn it at. The propeller that I've got on this airplane is a 7448. And it turns out to act like it's pretty much a climb prop. I'm not getting, the cruise speeds that some of these fellows claim that they get out of their higher horsepowered Cubs. I'm not saying they're liars, but I would suspect that their pedostatic system probably needs calibrating. On a good, smooth day, lightly loaded, I'm cruising at about 97 miles an hour. Now I hear people saying that they're cruising at 108, 110. Maybe they are. Who knows? Leroy had the vinyl shock covers installed. And of course, the airplane with the bigger engine, that prop is throwing back a lot more air. And we're cruising a little bit faster than 65, 70, 75. So those vinyl shock covers just did not last. And when I was flying it back from Ohio after I bought it, I tore them to shreds. Got home, bought a new set and put them on, and within a couple of hours, they were torn to shreds. So I built these covers, these aluminum covers. I think I've got a couple of videos on my channel showing how I built those aluminum covers. Running Cleveland brakes, but my master cylinders are the old stock Cub Scott master cylinders, and they're okay. They're all you need for a Cub. They're not going to hold the airplane under a full static RPM test, but it's adequate for a mag check. Got 2 fuel tanks in the wings, about 12 gallons each, and I've got a 3-gallon header tank behind the baggage compartment. So the 3-gallon header tank fits right in there. It's a little bit lower slung. It's about in this area right here. Now, Leroy just loved the idea of soloing from the front seat, so he, I'm suspecting he bought, now I can't prove this, but I suspect that is a front seat out of an older Super Cub. It's quite a bit wider than a standard J3 Cub. So the guy in the rear seat just cannot reach the rudder pedals the way he had it set up. It was so wide you couldn't get your feet up in there to get to the rudder pedals. So one of the first things I did when I got the airplane back was take the seat out and cut about 2.5 inches, I think, maybe 3 inches right out of the center of that seat frame, put it back together and welded it all back together, brought it back to the original dimensions of a J3. And so now you can rear seat solo with no problem at all. You can get to the Scott Master cylinders, which are under the seat back here. Now, originally he had a bottom door clamshell that wasn't worth 2 cents, and I'm not saying that to try to be mean to Leroy, because I'm not. He's passed away, God rest his soul, but he had some pretty poor advice on how to set up a clamshell bottom door. Now, everybody knows that the bottom door, in its original size, as you swing it down, it will hit the wing strut because of the different angle that the wing strut takes on the Clipwing version. His door was hinged right in the middle, so that as you open the door, you could close the bottom half up even with the top half up even with the bottom half, and get clearance over the wing struts. It's a jet doing a run-up over there, having to scream. Anyway, you'd have the door closed and flying along, and the differential pressures would conspire under certain conditions to pop that door open. I mean, it would fold out. It'd scare you to death. It'd fold out and pop the whole door completely open. Now that happened to me more times than once. Scared me to death. And that was his answer to an engineering problem that had never been asked. I mean, it just never would have worked. So I took it off and threw it away and built a whole new door. Well, that's going to probably just about wrap up this this overview of my Cub. I can tell you, boys and girls, this airplane is an absolute delight to fly. It just, I don't even know how to describe it. It is so much fun. Lightly loaded, half fuel tanks and me in it. It will get a rate of climb of right at 1,000 feet a minute. And that's no exaggeration, boys. It's really getting that. Of course, the heavier you get, I mean, it'll drop right on down. With me and Jim, now Jim weighs about 240. Me and Jim, and full of fuel, it'll drop down to about 550 feet a minute rate of climb. I like to cruise the airplane at about 2450 RPM. And, you know, that's what the book recommends. And I do not baby this engine. I lean it aggressively. The airplane, I mean, the engine just, if you really lean it aggressively, it likes that. The plugs like that. The airplane does, or the engine does not run as dirty. Got it set up for taking videos. In addition to the mount that I've got in the cockpit, I've got a GoPro mount right there on the lifting tube, and a GoPro mount up there on the right front wing strut, just out there by the aileron pulley. Now I've got 3 GoPro cameras. Got this JVC camera that I'm using now, and I've got a Canon camera that I mean, it's a decent camera, I just hate to use it. Well, it's sure getting noisy around here. But I've had trouble out of the Hero 3s ever since I first got them, and I bought them brand new. The batteries never lived up to the life expectancy that GoPro claimed. Now, GoPro claims that it'll give about an hour's worth of video. That's baloney. It doesn't do that. We're lucky to get 15 minutes at best. 20 maybe. But if anybody out there has a solution, let me know. So I guess that's gonna pretty much wrap it up for my Aero acro trainer, but I call it the Cub. To me, that's what it is. It's a Cub. Flies like a Cub. It's built like a Cub. Behaves like a Cub. So I call it the old Cub, or the Cubberlinski. So I hope that explains it, fellas. Well, I suspect that is going to wrap this little video up. I hope that I've answered some questions that a lot of people have been asking. The only problems I'm having with the airplane right now is it's not necessarily video, it's the audio. For some reason, I never have been able to get really good audio through that GoPro camera, through my headset, and through the intercom. So I'm kind of playing with, like I said in the beginning, I'm kind of playing with a intercom type of a audio system through the headset of that helmet on my scooter, seeing if I can figure something out. If anybody out there has any suggestions on getting decent audio through a GoPro camera, by all means let me know, because I tell you boys, I'm not really that bright when it comes to audio and electronics like that. So don't forget to subscribe and ring that little bell icon, and remember that each and every time somebody subscribes and rings that little bell, another student pilot is going to get their wings. Alright everybody, take care and thanks for watching.